right, so guys, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode. And today we have a big guest.
Yes.
A huge guest. You may know him as Tai Kamiya and also his
Cyborg
childhood.
009.
That's true.
He also played a character. His character was, remind me here, Dante.
I'm trying.
Because I always forget last minute. Joe, I believe is the character's name.
Yep.
And Cyborg 009.
Yep.
It's been a while since I've seen the show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only, the Joshua Seth.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Yeah, I just call him 009 because Joe is 009 in that show, which was a great show. But you missed a couple of big ones there. Hige and Wolf's Rain. Tetsuro and Akira. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Oh man. So dude, first thing we gotta ask you is and we always ask this to every single guest, like, how did you get into the world of voice acting? How'd you get started?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a weird profession to make it in, that's for sure. Well, if you go back far enough, really, my dad was a radio psychologist. You remember that old show, Frasier? He was like Frasier before Frasier. Yeah, so I would go to the radio station, like when I was in junior high school, and I'd see how the sausage was made. I'd see how the show was put together. I'd be on his side where he was taking calls and being on the mic and talking, and I'd be on the producer side. And back then, they were using carts for commercials and sound effects and things, and I'd get familiar with the mixers. I didn't really know how it worked, but I was familiar enough with it that then some years later when I was in college, I went to film school in New York City at NYU, and I decided to have my own radio show at the radio station there because it was familiar. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, and the big city in New York was, a little overwhelming and different, but the radio station, that felt very familiar. So I got a radio show. And it's from that radio show that I was able to get experience on the mic and put a reel together. And I used that to get an agent in Hollywood. And when I graduated, I moved to LA. And the rest, as they say, is history. Although it took a few years before the animation shows started coming in regularly. Eventually it happened. And initially it was just an audition here and there, a small part on Rugrats or Hey Arnold or some Saban show that you've never heard of. And then eventually it caught on and got popular and snowballed.
Wow. Cool. I remember sitting watching you in the 90s and also on Saturday nights on Toonami, watching you with Digimon. As a kid, you were my childhood hero.
Oh, thanks, guys. That was the gateway anime for millions of kids.
Oh, yeah.
And they're the people that come up to me as fully grown adults now at Comic-Cons and anime conventions all the time, because I'm back out doing those now. And they're always saying, like, you were the voice of my childhood. And I'm looking at them like, you look like you're about 30.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
so
two of us.
It's had legs. It's lasted. Yeah, it's continuing to grow the fan base. Digimon is getting more and more popular because it's still out there on streaming and with the new trading card game, which is getting more popular.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah, cards of our own.
Yeah, OG from
and the video games and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly definitely remember collecting a lot of Digimon cards when I was growing up. So sadly, I was the only kid in class that loved Digimon at the time. But
me too. But are you kidding me?
But definitely,
I had like almost.
You're not the only one anymore. Do you have any of the original? Do you have any of the trading cards from the original game?
Yeah,
The first
gen cards. A bunch of those, and the ones they did. It was a remake in sometime in 2002, I believe. Was that other like the dark with the darker like that bluish darkish color? I don't know if you can tell because there's a glare on the camera, but
I don't know. All I know is sometimes people will come up with these cards that I've never seen. And they're like, this is from the original whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's all sealed like that, and then I'll sign it, and they'll put it right back in, never touching it again.
There was a 1993 version, and then there was also a 2001, which are two different. They look very different. One is like very, very blue, and the other one's like a bluish, darkish bluish color, like a bluish purple almost kind of.
Okay.
So yeah, and they have those. But those
I wouldn't know except that I'm also going to a lot of these trading card conventions now, and although I was going to say all over the country, but actually I just went to an event up in Canada, and it was the same thing. It was a line out the door. So it's just becoming more and more popular. And I'm getting the feeling that the Digimon card game is going to become popular the way that the Yu-Gi-Oh card game is before too long.
I was hoping that they would keep you on as the voice of Tai, even with the new series they did. But I know that
Well, they replaced everybody. It wasn't just me. They replaced the whole voice cast, and that was a decision made by the producers that they wanted to go a different direction because the old shows, we have camaraderie, we have friendship, we talk about the crests, like my character Tai is a crest of courage. That's not really coming into play in the new show. The new show is more like a video game from what I've seen. It's more of just like, come on, let's fight all the time. That's not really what my version of Tai was all about.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, actually, speaking of Tai, like, did you have any did you have any like favorite lines that everybody from conventions have always asked you about?
We've heard you do stuff for people when you do conventions, and I've seen you multiple times on Instagram do stuff. But was there any favorites? Are there any like favorite things that you had? Any favorite lines from Tai?
There's certain quotes that people always want me to say, like, "What's a few raindrops between friends?" Those kinds of things.
My favorite
but
one
for me,
was the thing in the movie. You might remember this. Sorry to interrupt you there for a minute. You might remember this, but there's a scene where Izzy asks you about the web connection for the satellite, the satellite uplink, and he asks Tai if Tai knows what a satellite uplink, or no, he asks him if he knows what a semiconductor is, and Tai's like, a guy who works part-time on a train?
I do remember that, yes. Yeah. A lot of those corny jokes, actually, so many of those corny jokes were put in by the writers and directors and us as the actors, as we're just going through the script. Sometimes we can rewrite things and put in corny jokes or dad jokes. And again, that's what gave Digimon its heart and that sense of fun that I think there's several elements that made it last, I think, and grow in the popular culture. But that's one of them. The friendship, the humor, the corny humor. It's more than just fighting. The fact that they grow and evolve and get older, and they're not just always like 8 years old or 10 years old or whatever.
Right.
That's something that I got tired of with Pokemon that I could never see with Digimon. I'm like, hey, they get older, like they go through their battles with each other. Tai and Matt always had trouble in the show and the original series, right? And then even
nobody wants the Matt Funko Pop.
Really?
Get that for like $12.
Wow, that's crazy.
Because
poor Matt.
Unfortunately.
Just telling the truth. Like, you can look on Amazon and you can't find the Tai Pop, but the Matt Pop, go for it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely. And also, now of course we also ask a lot of our voice actors this too, and sometimes they usually have funny stories that they'd like to tell in the booth. So did you have any funny booth stories, like either during the recording of the show or like
that you can remember? Of course, it's been a while,
it all blends together, man. It all blends together. Well, I will tell you this: that the last Digimon movie, Digimon Last Evolution, Kizuna, we were recording that in the Hollywood Studios location when the whole city, all of Los Angeles, shut down in it must have been April of 2020 because of COVID. It was still really new. I live in Florida now. That's where I am right now. And I flew out there to LA to voice all the Digimon Tri movies and then Kizuna. And I just flown out there. And as soon as I landed, I went out to a restaurant. Before recording, all the restaurants had been closed. And then I get into the recording studio and everybody's running around in a panic, holding the scripts out at arm's length, saying, "Don't touch me, don't come near me, keep 6 feet back." And nobody knew what to do, but they were in full-on panic mode. And I'm thinking, well, this is weird because you've got like an engineer in one room, maybe the director in your headphones, and the actors in another room behind a heavy door and glass. Everybody's already separated, but it didn't matter because like by the next day they had shut the studios as well. I flew back home and I had to record the rest of my lines on a mic. It wasn't this nice of a mic. It was just a basic $99 mic. And then the engineers had to match everything up and sweeten the recordings and get it to sound like it had been recorded in a studio, which I guess worked because it was very popular when it came out.
Wow. Cool. So, and I know I've heard you talk about mic setups on Instagram. I've seen you said you spend a little money on your tech. I'm sure you can tell. We spent a little.
We doped a little
stuff on our tech, and
if you've got the money, then you will get better quality. However, I will say this about for anybody out there that's a podcaster or a content creator, the
Mhm.
mic is only 1/3 of the well, let's say 1/4 of the setup. It's okay, what are you putting that mic through, like your mixer and your software and stuff?
Mhm.
That-
Mhm.
That's going to have an effect. What is the voice, the quality of voice that you're projecting? That's why during the pandemic, I was running all of these Zoom classes and Zoom workshops. Now I just have it as an online class that you can get at joshuaseth.com/training. And
Nice.
anybody who does this should do it because
Definitely.
it's a lot cheaper than taking the classes. They're all pre-recorded, but that training is how to train your voice so that you come through with emotion and energy and you show up on the mic well, basically. So that's the third piece. But the fourth technical aspect, and one of the most important, more than the mic, certainly, second only to your voice, I would say, is the room itself. The room that I'm in is carpeted and it's got some level of treatment, not
Yeah.
professional soundproofing treatment, like a
Mhm.
bunch of,
Right.
stuff on the walls necessarily, but the carpeting and the curtains and things that make a huge difference. You could have a really cheap mic, but a well treated sound, not soundproofed fully, but a well sound treated room. And that's going to sound better than a really expensive mic in a big open empty room.
Yeah, I
Right,
guess we're
right.
Now,
lucky because all the posters and everything kind of are our soundproofing, sort of. So the sound is pretty good in here in terms of like, there's a little echo, but only because we have speakers for our sound effects, you know? But
yeah,
yeah.
it's all four of those things. It's not just the mic. The mic is fun because it's tech. It's nice to look at the tech and think, oh, if I spend this amount of money on this mic, I'm going to sound better. Not necessarily.
Mhm.
Depends on you. It depends on your room that you're recording in.
Yeah.
And
And
now I feel like we're getting too in the weeds for people, though.
no,
Yeah, no, but I had kind of actually had something I've always wanted to ask you, Joshua Seth, actually, as a voice actor and as someone who started in the '90s, right, who started out doing voices and being kind of that inspiration to a lot of kids and to just a lot of adults now. Does that? How do you feel now? Like when you go to cons and you see people like myself who grew up watching Digimon. Do you get a lot? How do you feel like meeting people when you see fans? I know we met Steve Bloom and he was saying about how it inspires him and stuff like that, right? What's your take on that? How do you feel about that?
It's fantastic because as a voice actor, you're delivering a performance in isolation, and you never know how the work is going to turn out or how it will be received by the public. And it doesn't matter if you're working on a big movie or a little series that may never see the light of day. You never really know how it's going to turn out. And then even when it does, I remember back in the day, and I'm recording all these shows that ended up not just Digimon, but on Fox Kids or Warner Brothers or Toonami or Adult Swim. It's like, okay, I might have been on tour or something with my live show. Turn on the TV Saturday morning. There it is. My voice is coming out, and for a moment I think, oh, that's really cool. And then the moment passes because there's nobody there to bounce it off of.
right.
It's weird. That's why I like touring with my live show because there's an audience in front of you. So the only way that we as voice actors really get a sense of how it affects people is face to face at these conventions. Somewhat on social media now, but that didn't even exist when I was first doing all these shows. But at these anime cons, comic cons, yeah, people come up. They're like, "Oh, look, I've had this for 20 years, or I made this fan art for
Right.
you, or I got this tattoo because I love the show so much." This happens over and over every time I go out. It really does feel fantastic to have made a positive impact on people's lives, something that they remember you well for. At least they remember me for a hero like Tai and not a
Right.
villain like Tetsuo and Akira. Even though I love Tetsuo, I would rather be associated as a person with someone who represents courage and heroism.
And then 009, that was one of my other favorites too. I loved you, and your character was awesome, and even in the other movies
Yeah.
too. You know, so
Yeah, that is not as well known a series, but yeah, it's definitely a deep cut and it's much beloved and it came out great because it was already a classic, when it was originally created before it was dubbed here in America.
mhm.
That's one advantage that these dubbed animes have is that if it already has a fan base and it's already proven itself in another country and in another market, if you do a good job, it's going to have the same kind
Right.
of a reaction
Yeah,
here because it's
yeah,
just a
yeah.
good quality show.
Right,
So
right,
we know
definitely.
you are much more than just a voice actor. You've done what else have you done? Because you've done a lot. You're more than just a voice. You've done so much other stuff too,
Well,
from
I
what I've heard.
I started in theater, and so all the years that I was just voice acting, I was missing doing live performance. And then some years ago, I decided, well, I'm going to leave Hollywood. I've already done this. I'm going to go on tour with my live show as a mentalist, which is sort of like magic of the mind stuff. And I've done that like thousands of times in 40 different countries. I've had 5 different TV specials in Japan and South Korea. I've done everything from hundreds of colleges, which I'm about to go out on a fall college tour next week, actually, with that show, to corporations and casinos and theaters all over the place. And I always thought, well, if the tour ends and people don't want to see me live, I'll just go back to LA and I'll start voicing again. But it never happened. The show just kept going and going and going. Now, of course, we can do things remotely. So maybe I will start voicing again. I'm in talks with some people to do that, but it's a matter of time. I also have kids, and
Right,
that's
right.
very time consuming. Yeah, they just started back to school actually, and they can't drive yet, so that takes a lot
Wow.
of time.
And
I've also written 3 books, but only the last book is
wow.
worth getting, which is on working with focus. It's about how performers are able to focus all their mind and bodies and emotions and energies and and perform at a high level, and how you can do that too. And that was the jumping off point for me to become a keynote speaker. And now I speak on that, and I also speak on communication skills. The same thing I train on my website about, that how you can train your voice to be a more influential speaker and make more of an impact when you do speak. So I speak, I perform live with my mentalism show, I do the voiceovers, and I raise children and occasionally write books.
You
Yeah,
sound like
busy,
you
busy
sound like an
man.
all around like awesome dude.
Thanks, man. That's why I'm with you guys when we're scheduling. I'm like, time, like we gotta
Yeah,
make
yeah,
this
yeah. No,
tight.
no, we
Time is
totally
at
No,
understand.
definitely.
time is
We
at a minimum. Yeah.
Right.
we've done that. We've been through probably a couple other actors. So we did was it? We've done stuff with Steve Bloom. We've done stuff with Cali Bear. We had the other Josh Martin, who
Josh
does
Martin.
Majin Buu. So yeah, we've done a couple things. So yeah, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
But tech issues like Zoom always gives us trouble every once in a while.
It does.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. But I will tell you this to people who think that that's impressive. You go a lot farther in life if you just focus on one thing. Like if I had just stayed a voice actor, I would have been, a much bigger voice actor because I would have continued doing voice acting and I would have been on a lot more shows. I mean, that's just true. And because I split my time and attention and focus in several different areas, I didn't achieve as outsized an impact in any of them. However, as a creative person, I have to go first and foremost with what is inspiring me creatively. And so that's
Hmm.
always changing. It's kind of the double-edged sword of being a creative person is you have to maintain that passion and that creative interest in order to do good work, but that passion will change over time.
That's true.
Well, hey,
That's
if you
true.
ask me, right, as a fan and as someone who grew up listening to you and hearing you a lot, you were one of the most, to me, you were probably like the one of the people on my top 10 list to get to actually meet and to like talk to eventually. So to
Thanks,
me,
you.
right,
Thanks.
you made a big impression. So that I thank you for.
Definitely. We both
That's
do.
awesome. I definitely left Hollywood at the peak of my career, right at the top. But
Right.
but the fame and the money and the notoriety, that wasn't the reason I was doing it. That wasn't the most important thing. It was sort of just to fulfill whatever that creative curiosity was at the time, and then that changed to doing the live shows, and now I'm more interested in, honestly, the speech is building up. The
Oh,
speech will
okay.
hopefully be act 3, and the teaching people communication skills. Like, it's really gratifying. I didn't do it too much before the pandemic, and then I started teaching these Zoom classes and showing not just voice actors but podcasters, content creators, salespeople, leaders, how do you get the ideas out of your head and into somebody else's? Because especially as Americans, we are not singers. We're not trained to in the skills that you would get from the theater, from my
Right.
background, to be able to really, it's not just projection in terms of volume and vocalization, but to really make an outsized impact with what it is that you are saying. There are techniques, there are skills to this that I spent years and years learning and refining. And I still do every morning. I still do breathing exercises. I do vocalization exercises, whether or not I'm going to be on the mic. I think it's important. It's an important skill set to have. And once you do have it, you can use it in so many different professions, because being able to communicate effectively and influentially with people, that's not just for actors and politicians and content creators. It's for anybody that wants to make an impact when they interact with other people.
True.
It's kind of a big idea.
Or even if you want to work with someone, like kind of like what we did, reaching out to you. You know, you got to have people skills. You know.
Yeah.
Sure.
You also got to be easy to work with. Definitely.
So
those are all soft skills that are all important. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And what is it? I always wake up every morning, and I think that the first thought that hits me is that announcer voice that a lot of people who grew up in the 90s. It's the Dragon Ball Z. It's like, last time on Dragon Ball Z. That voice.
That's how you wake up.
Yeah, it's always
That's how you wake up.
That's how I wake up. Yeah, I think of that.
No snooze alarm for you, I guess.
Not really.
Yeah, or it's Tai for Digimon lines, right? I'll have some line going through my head, and I'll be saying it to myself all day long, trying to impersonate one of the actors to try to sound like it, to recreate the thing in my head, the memory in my head or whatever, But yeah.
True. Definitely.
You had a question.
Yes, I did. I had so basically this is actually like one of the final questions that we usually ask. So for anybody that wants to either get in the position, because I know you mentioned before that you definitely need to start in theater. You got to have some sort of foundation before you get started. But like all the little kids out there that want to be, hey, I want to be just like you when I grow up. So what advice would you have for them?
Sure. Well, for the voice acting, I put together a couple resources. One, I created a free class recording on the 7 keys to becoming a voice actor. These are the 7 basic things that you need to know to have a career in voice acting. If you go, I think it's a hidden page on my website right now, but if you go to joshuaseth.com/VO, like voiceovers, joshuaseth.com/VO, you can watch that for free. That would be a great starting point, because I get the question so much, and it took me about a half an hour to answer the question properly, and that's what that video is. So that's one. The next is my podcast, because my podcast, it's only a couple of months old, but every other episode I interview friends of mine who are voice actors and directors and people who know something and have something to say about that profession and about this topic. And in the episodes in between, those are short episodes where I'm giving you one idea or technique or exercise, something that you can do to improve your own skills and become better at voicing, communicating, breathing life into a script, any of these things. And the podcast is Communication Transformation with Joshua Seth on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Google Podcasts, and anywhere you get your podcast.
That's what we hope.
That would be the other resource that looks like that.
Cool.
Yep,
Nice.
Awesome. That is super awesome.
I love your picture too. You look great.
Thanks. That's my promo for my show, actually, for my mentalism show.
Oh, cool. Definitely, we definitely gotta check that out.
We hope we can get as big as you, Joshua Seth. You're all over the place.
We can get out there.
Yeah.
Consistency. Do a little something every day. Yeah, like a little something that moves the ball forward, not just like answering emails and things. So something that improves your capabilities, something that grows your fan base, something that increases your creative output. Just a little something every day.
Cool.
And then over time, it becomes big.
So I wanted to mention, if it's okay with you, I know that you had, I think it was on Instagram, I think you had spoke about it, that you also have kids, and that one of your kids is a fan of Tai from Digimon. So I wanted to ask you about it. How does it feel to have that, because not only do you have your fans, but the fact that your kids like your character, that must really hit you hard.
Yeah, my kids watch too much anime, and I can't really say anything about it, can I?
I think that's a lot of kids now. A lot of kids are watching anime a lot.
I know, it's like I said, it's become bigger than ever. They've moved on now from Digimon to I think they're watching Demon Slayer, and they're 9 and 11, so I think they're a little young for that. But they're reading all the books. So again, I'm like, well, you're reading it too, so reading is good. Yeah.
Well,
And
what's his name? That it's Bryce Paffenbrook who does one of the characters in Demon Slayer.
yeah,
Cool guy too. So yeah, it's like maybe who
yeah,
knows?
he
They
is.
might go to a
I
con,
used to
perhaps.
I used to play poker with his dad. His dad would come over to my house with Lex Lang and a
Oh
bunch of other
wow.
voice actors every Thursday night because I lived walking distance from Warner Brothers Animation,
Oh
and
wow.
they'd play poker with me, and he would talk about Bryce, but Bryce was like 10. He was like my son's age.
Wow.
And while we're talking about Tiger, I wanna promote his music
Yeah, go
for
for
a
it.
second
Yeah,
there.
Go ahead. Go
He
for it. Yeah.
so during the pandemic when everything was shut down and the kids were doing school on screens, he
Hmm.
taught himself to use these music programs because he's always done music and drums and such,
Mm.
Ableton Live and Launchpad and all these music programs.
Hmm.
And I would get these requests, can you buy me this app? Okay, fine, it's music. Again, I'm like, all right, I'll unlock your screen time because you're doing something creative or something scholastic, something productive, right? It's
Right.
music. And then he starts texting me songs, finished songs. I'm like, what song is this? I made
Wow.
it. I made this song. So together we produced an album. It's called 10. His name's Tiger Seth. You can get it on anywhere that you stream music. Again,
Cool.
Pandora and Spotify and iTunes
Yep.
and Apple Music and all of it. It's if you like EDM music, it's all house music and there's some chill music and there's some industrial, but it's all EDM music made by a 10-year-old. That's the amazing thing.
Wow.
I hardly did anything. All I did was produce it and make it so it could be out there. But yeah, he
Wow.
did all of that.
That's cool. Well, Dante here actually
Yeah,
is
speaking of
his
which,
own music producer on Spotify and a couple
and I'm
places.
also a DJ.
Yeah.
I go by the name of
Oh, check it out then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, hey, Joshua Seth, where can people find you?
Yeah.
Because if people want to know more, like we have a fan base here on YouTube and on Instagram and everywhere else. I actually got a signing from you. I don't know if you
Yeah, I
noticed.
saw that
My name and DNA Studios is on there, our business.
Yep.
on my virtual signing with the
Yeah,
Digimon
but
cast
where can people
recently. Cool.
find you? Well, and what are you
So
up to now?
I'm on all the major platforms. The one that I'm focusing on most right now, surprisingly, is TikTok because like every other thing I put on a TikTok is going viral with hundreds of thousands of views. And I've
Wow.
only been on it a couple of months. I'm running a contest right now. So if you happen to be watching this soon, it's for a signed Digimon card, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to do a different one on every social media platform. So follow me on all of them. Just
Cool.
make sure you're really following me. You'll know it's me because there's a lot of followers. There are these imposters that are coming out now. Two of
I've
them just
seen
got
it.
reported to me last night in the PMs. It just ticks me off, man. They're using my name and my image, and then they're messaging people saying, "Oh, give me, your information, and I'll send you something." I don't want anybody to get ripped off. So that's just make sure that you're actually following me. I think it's Joshua Seth Official on TikTok. Yeah, but then there's like a fake one that's Joshua Seth _ official. Anyway, just look up Joshua Seth on TikTok, TikTok, Instagram,
Mhm.
Facebook fan pages, and Twitter, which I spend too much time on.
That's everybody.
Yeah.
And also here on YouTube. Yeah, I have also a YouTube channel as well.
Cool.
But TikTok's the main one right now, and the podcast. Those are the two places I'm spending the most time.
Nice. Well,
Definitely,
we're
definitely.
happy to have you. I'm glad we're able to get you to come on, even if it's just for a little while. We're happy to have
Yeah,
you.
we're super excited to have
We'll
you.
make
This is
sure to
perfect
send
amount of time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Was there anything last you wanted to say or anything?
Just in the show notes, I'll send you my LinkTree. That
Sure.
will be easier for people. So to
Definitely.
make sure that you get my actual account.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Cool.
Do
Yeah.
something about these imposters, man.
I know.
Yeah, really.
It's crazy. It's definitely crazy.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I think this will pretty much wrap it up. So hopefully, definitely follow Joshua
Seth,
Seth.
yeah, go
We
check
thank
him
him
out.
so much. Come by anytime because the door is always open,
Yeah.
man.
And join the contest. The contest is going on until
Yep.
Friday this week, and I'll be giving away those signed cards at the end of the week. And if you do like my podcast, The Communication Transformation, it's pretty new. Please give it some 5-star ratings and reviews, and we'll bump up its profile. And I'll be just like you guys,
Oh
interviewing
yeah.
Yeah.
a
Definitely.
lot of
Thank you.
people like me on that show.
We'll put you out there everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Josh.
Cool.
That's
Thank
what
you.
we do.
Yeah.
Yep. So until
Thanks, guys. It was nice to
next time-
talk to you today.
Awesome, and thank you too.
Yep.
So until next time, guys, we are out of here. Thank you.
Let's go save the world.
There you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Bye.
Until next time.
Thanks so much.